Hello and welcome to the PhD Tour. This is the first webinar of the day, and today we will be walking you through the basics of doing a PhD in France, the application and the funding. We have with us on the panel today Dr. Olivier Foudem, attaché for scientific and academic cooperation at the Embassy of France in India, and previously professor at IMT means Albi, and Ms. Ashwini Ravi, a DST scientist and PhD scholar at CIFRE Bangalore, and previously a Raman Charpak Fellow at University of Lille. Alongside me is Mr. Rachit Dhawan, Manager of Campus France Delhi, and I'm Saurabh Bhaumik, Manager of Campus France Kolkata, and we will be your host for today. Dr. Foudem, Ashwini, and Rachit, thank you for being with us today. We have a packed schedule for you today, so in the interest of time, we will jump right into the presentation conducted by Dr. Foudem, Rachit, and myself, and following that, we will hear testimonial from Ashwini Ravi, our featured alumni on her journey as a Raman Charpak Fellow in France. Time permitting, we will also take some questions from the audience before we end at 5:45. So if you have some questions that you would like to see answered, please put them down in the Q&A box below, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Please bear with me while I share my screen. So before we jump into the main presentation, I just want to give you a quick overview of the Campus France mission. So the Campus France is basically the student mobility office of the French Embassy in India. What that means is we are in essence one-stop information shop for students wishing to pursue their education in France. And that means all levels of education. So whether you're going for bachelor's, master's, PhD, postdoc, you will be able to contact any of our 12 offices across the country and get information on what are the universities, where are the courses that you would like to study, how to apply for them, and what are the scholarships that you are able to apply for. So as I mentioned, we have 12 offices across the country, about 500 people working for Campus France internationally, and we are present in about 124 countries. And before I end this short quick presentation, I will tell you a little bit about the catalogs that we have. So Campus France maintains a lot of resources to enable you to look for courses in France, and that includes having separate catalogs for each level of study and also segregated by language. For example, we have bachelor's and master's catalogs both in French for the students who are wishing to study in French, but also a separate catalog where you can find out all the courses that are taught exclusively in English. Similarly, we have a separate arts program catalog and a catalog for even short-term or by-distance education. The featured catalog today would be the research portal, which my colleague Rachit is going to walk you through a little bit later. And that catalog really is going to be our focus for today, where you have the list of the doctoral schools and also how to apply for it. I'm now going to hand you over to Dr. Olivier Foudem for a short presentation on the research landscape in France. Olivier, over to you.
Yes. Is it okay now? Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here, for having interest about research and PhD in France. I will just give a short brief about what research, some figures and some specificity on research in France, and also for the PhD, because you may know, but my dear Rachit will explain that more deeply, that a PhD in France is quite different in somehow that what will be a PhD in the States or in India, for instance. Okay, so when we speak about France, we can first be thinking about cheese, wine, romantic love, fashion, perfume, castle, heritage building. Or we could think also about history, heritage, and human rights and so on. But today what we would like to share with you about France is also to point out that France is also a key player, an important country on research, science and technology. Many developments have been created and initiated from France. Just a few examples here that France is quite, you probably know about Ariane or Airbus company, about aeronautics and space. On the right you have Nina, the social behavior robot who learn how to behave and to respond the communication skills of a human being. So watching and communicating with a human being, he learns how to do that. How do you look at the people? How do you turn the head when somebody's speaking and so on. And also some other example you have on solar energy. France was one of the pioneer countries many years ago on solar energy to make furnace, very high temperature, or power with solar energy, and as well as it is with radio telescope, astronomy, medicine and so on. So France is also a key player in research. So you know that we are top 4 in the fourth in the world for the number of Nobel prizes. Sorry, I have something in my screen. Okay. Also in number 2 in Fields medals. Maybe you already know that Fields medals are the mathematics Nobel prize, but we are also for key country for publication, for citation, for the impact of publication, but also less known that the same for patent filing for innovation. France is about more than 3 lakh full-time equivalent researchers, and we have here some examples of the most recent Nobel Prize in chemistry with Emmanuel Charpentier for the tool to work with the genome, and Esther Duflo in economy for the model they use for the fight against poverty. And then you have Cédric Villani. This is already 11 years ago in mathematics. Some specificity of France, I will point out 3, that we have a very strong, very various public research organizations. Some of them, like CNRS, absolutely world key player in science, and they are quite. Some of them are quite generalist, as is CNRS, but others are quite the specialty in agronomy, CIRAN in tropical agronomy, INSERN or Institut Pasteur for earth and medicine, INRIA in computer science, CEOA in nuclear and alternative energy, IFREMA for marine science, and CNES for space, just to cite the main one. Then also the research in France is quite important on the industrial and private company sector. We have today more than 60% of researchers, and also of funding in the private sector for research, and France spends more than 2.2% of the GDP for research. One point I would like to point out as well, which is almost unique in the world, is the system of what we call UMR, that is Unité Mixte de Recherche, that are joint research units, that happens when a research organization, a private company, a university, a graduate school of engineering sign together a contract to be associated for a specific project, which is a laboratory or research center, and that is a specific strength in France. We have almost thousands of this kind of UMR in France. Some of them with CNRS. I put just some example, but among thousands of that we could have. sometimes with the different organizations. We also have a few joint units which are both international with American, Japanese, Indian university, and maybe also with a company, as it is in that example here with Rhodia, the chemical producer that you know. And that is a particularity when it happened to you to be looking for your PhD. When you will postulate for an offer, you will be looking for the most important will be the research center or the laboratory. In French, we call that laboratoire more than centre de recherche. And the place where you will go to make your PhD is very key factor, because on what happened during and after your PhD, the quality of research, the quality of the, and this must be important for you when you see a specific research center, to understand that it is an UMR, it is associated with. That means that in this unit, when you work in your office or in the cafeteria, you will meet with some researcher, maybe a faculty, but it may be a full-time researcher from CNRS or from itself or a public organization. So that's quite important, because all this kind of public bring together different level, different culture, and different way of working. Okay. So just to finish my presentation about PhD, you know that PhD is the key degree for international career. It's well known and recognized everywhere in the world. And as science has become very very international activity, you know that nowadays most of the country, if you see at their publication, more than 50 or 60% of their publication are co-publication with foreign national researcher or institution mostly. So science is an international activity, and as is PhD, a good share of PhD students have at least one international mobility when they don't go abroad. And France is the third country in the world receiving in the number of hosted PhD students. You have also the specificity that all in the big city, in the big university centers, the PhD are managed by what we call doctoral school, but maybe Rashid will speak. In that are typically the institution you will meet in the following specific thematic webinar. So thank you very much for now, and I give floor to my colleague.
Thank you, Olivier, for the very informative presentation on the research landscape. I'm going to take over now to just discuss what are the modalities involved and what are the structure of actually doing a PhD in France. So allow me to share the screen again. And I hope you can see it. So since 1999, France has conformed to the Bologna process, which means that the doctorate itself, just like in India, is a third cycle degree. What that means is in Europe, to actually get into to qualify for a doctoral program, you must have done a bachelor's degree of at least 3 years, corresponding to 180 ECTS credits, and a master's of at least 2 years, corresponding to 120 ECTS credits. Now, from an Indian perspective, of course, you do not need to actually worry about the credit system here, because since last year, actually, we have in place something called the Mutual Recognition of Degrees Treaty. That means that the degree that you get from a recognized public or a private institution in India, so if you get a master's degree from the University of Delhi or the University of Calcutta, it would be considered as being equivalent to a master degree awarded in France by the French government. What that means is, as long as you qualify to be awarded a degree in India, a master's degree, which is recognized by the Indian government, it will also be recognized by French institutions for entry into a doctoral program. How the doctoral program is structured is kind of like this. You will have a contract with a doctoral school. And the doctoral schools, we have about 270 of these. The doctoral schools themselves are actually, they actually have attached to them about 2,500 public labs, and the doctoral schools operate under the aegis of universities themselves. So a normal PhD in France lasts about 3 to 4 years if you're doing it in natural or technological sciences, but it could go up to 5 or 6 years if you're doing something in social sciences or human sciences. So that's, and I will talk a little bit about the differences between both, because there is a little bit of different approach you have to take when you are applying to that. But the doctoral school itself is the one which will, in coordination with your thesis supervisor, will actually be charged with monitoring your progress. And also they will be giving you additional classes which correspond to about 150 hours of training. Now, these are common classes that you'll have to take, which basically they'll deal with the methodology, communication, writing scientific papers, handling intellectual property, that sort of thing. As we mentioned before, the PhD is, of course, a very selective process, and you have to have a master's degree that corresponds to an European master degree. But in France, what happens is you also have to have funding in place to actually start your PhD program. So this is how it differs a little bit from the Indian system. And when it comes to basic sciences, natural sciences, technological sciences, PhD, well, first of all, I'll just cover this part because this question gets asked quite frequently. Yes, it's possible to do it in English. It's possible, more and more, it's possible to write your entire thesis in English, defend it in front of a jury in English. You would probably be required to just translate your abstract. So there has to be a French translation of the abstract. But yes, it is possible to write and defend your thesis in English. And whatever is the case, you will be, of course, given French language training from the doctoral school itself. But this is more common in natural sciences or technological sciences. When it comes to human sciences, social sciences, it's still the norm that French is required. French is actually the medium of working. Now, actually applying for these PhDs, in France, when you're applying for generally scientific PhDs, it's usually the case where you will have to apply for subjects that are already published by French researchers, because it will be a problem for you to get the funding yourself. So it doesn't work that way where you propose the topic. Rather, the topic is actually advertised by the doctoral schools, and you will be able to go through a catalog where those topics are being advertised, and you will be able, as a prospective student, to integrate into one of those research projects. And Rachit is going to walk you through the catalog that's in place for you to look for. When it comes to social sciences, that is a little bit more traditional. In that case, you will have to first identify a prospective thesis supervisor. You'll have to write to them. Again, we have resources in place to enable you to look up the doctoral school directory, find the person there, and see if their background corresponds to your area of research. And then you can write to them, begin a conversation, and submit a research proposal. In that case, it is possible to integrate into a PhD without having a funding in place. But for basic sciences, for technological sciences, generally you will always it will always be the other way around. You will be integrating into a topic that is already advertised by the doctoral schools. Your doctoral degree would consist, of course, of a thesis that is at least 200 pages long. And once your thesis is finished, you will have to it will have to be approved by 2 external examiners. And once that's done, you will get the right to defend it in a public jury. And if all of that is successful, the viva voce, the defense itself and the thesis itself, both of them will actually be published by the university, but will also end up on a public database. Since 1985, all juries that are defended, all theses that are defended in France are actually uploaded to the website thesis.fr. So they are actually on a public database. And as I mentioned, most of the time it can be done in English. So without taking up too much of your time, because the how shall I say, the projects themselves that we have, the resources themselves that we have, that's is where we'll spend the bulk of the presentation, so that you can familiarize yourself with the resources that we have. But I just want to talk to you a little bit about the different types of doctorates in France. So the single doctorate is most of the time going to be what you are going to apply for. This is the one that corresponds most to the Indian system, because it is going to involve you working within the same research laboratory within one doctoral school that's under a single university, and you will have a single supervisor. This will lead to a French degree, a degree from the university which is attached to your doctoral school. But it is technically possible in France to have two thesis supervisors, and one of them could be from another university in France or in another country. So you'll still receive one degree from the university, but yes, you could have a supervisor from that university, but also another supervisor advising you from another institution, either in France or in another country. The joint doctorate is where it gets a bit interesting. In this case, you will actually have two hosting agreements with two different universities, and but you will be actually doing your thesis defense only in one university, and you will be having two supervisors. So your how shall I say, your hosting agreement actually has the joint doctorate agreement actually has to have in place the modalities of how that is going to happen. So where exactly you're going to do your defense, and who, for example, is going to pay for the jury traveling expenses. So that's a little less common. But one scheme that we encourage quite a lot is what we call the in-company doctorate. So in France, this is called the CIFRE scheme. And this involves two supervisors, but one of the supervisors is actually going to be from a company. So in this case, you'll have two agreements. You will have a hosting agreement with a lab under the doctoral school, but you will also have a work contract with a French company. So this leads to a degree from the university, but also at the end of it, you will have some commitments to the company, and they will also offer supervision and training courses. And at the end of your tenure, you will have not only a world-class degree, but also some work experience to boot. I am now going to hand you over to Rachit, who is going to take you through the research catalogs that we have in place. Over to you, Rachit.
Thank you so much, Saurav. Following up to what we just heard about the different kinds of PhD programs and the kind of different attributes that combine to a PhD, we'll look at different aspects, what makes doing a PhD in France very interesting. So we have some research programs that we would like to tell you more about and to share more with you, just so that we can have everything at the same time. All right, so I'm here to apprise you about two different programs that the French government has in place, and then also a fellowship that we have in place as well. The first one that we have in place is MOPGA, which is the Make Our Planet Great Again program. To help you understand more about MOPGA, it's a collaboration between different ministries in France, and they came together to sort of have a program for international students to encourage them to pursue master's level and PhD level trainings in climate change and sustainability, in earth systems, in energy transition, and societal challenges of environmental conservation. So to understand more about this, the Make Our Planet Great Again program was started in 2017 and has had 8 calls since then. The next call, of course, will be very soon as well, towards the end of the year. And it's entirely financed by France as a program. And it does deal with different climate change topics. So it's very interesting because France is a strong leader in this domain and is actively participating to promote climate change and sustainability options and to help different students contribute to the research landscape that is there in France already in place in this domain. MOPGA covers different things, as I mentioned: energy transitions, earth science, system sciences, climate change and sustainability sciences. It encompasses all of these different topics for students to take up research programs or master's level programs in France. The programs that are launched, just to give you an idea of the timeline, of course, the initial call was first made in 2017, and the first MOPGA students did arrive in France in 2018. We had around 47 laureates at the master's level and around 21 laureates at a doctorate level. And you can see subsequently for postdoctorate and short stay as well, there were several laureates who had arrived. The program, of course, had more financing and also geared up with more number of students and professionals over the years. So as you can see the timeline, the number of students arriving has been consistently present in France over the years as well. And the grants that have been present have been 100% financed, and the program is one of the most successful collaborations that the French government has in place. To help you understand how the application and selection procedure works for MOPGA, for young researchers, they have to first find an institution in France. So it's very important to contact a supervisor or a host laboratory so that you can explain your research project to them. The idea behind explaining your research project is quite straightforward. You have to be able to sort of outline your scientific objectives, give a methodology as to why particularly are you looking to pursue research in France, and how exactly is this relevant for you in the abstract sense of the research project. Now, it is very important for you to also identify that whatever has been your research background in your home country and the collaborations you've had in place, it is very important to highlight this so that the person who's supervising the project or would be reviewing your application has an understanding about your research landscape and background. So you definitely need to have a CV with a list of your publications. You need to have your PhD diploma, either in English or French. You will definitely be great. It will be great if you have some letters of recommendation, a letter of support from the French institution as well. And yes, definitely, it's good to also research a bit about your research supervisor as well, so as to understand what they have been working on and what kind of research landscape they have collaborated and contributed to. It does add a lot in terms of the selection process as well. The applications as a part of the MOPGA program that we have are reviewed by French scientific experts and in general people involved in the scientific committee. And to understand more about, there's also a link on the screen that you can read more about the MOPGA program that we have in place. We also have another research program called the Eiffel Scholarship, which is quite common and quite well known around amongst the students who are looking to pursue studies in France. For Eiffel, if you look at a doctorate program, the mobility is usually provided for over a year. So over 12 months in the frame of a joint supervision and a co-supervised doctorate, you can apply for an Eiffel doctorate program as well. The idea behind Eiffel is actually to sort of promote the French higher education systems internationally and to also bring out target areas in sciences, engineering, economics, management, political sciences, so that students can make benefit of the different programs and landscape that is there in France. The Eiffel monthly allowance is quite good as well. So you do receive around 1,700 euros as of January 2021, and other expenses in terms of social security or cultural activities and also financial help under some conditions do also come up as a part of the Eiffel doctorate program. As of 2005, we have had more than 1,000 Eiffel doctorate laureates present in France. So it's a growing number and definitely one of the hallmarks and frameworks of the French higher education system. The eligibility is quite straightforward. A candidate must not be more than 30 years old at the time of the application, and only applications submitted by the French institution are accepted. So you cannot make an individual application for an Eiffel doctorate program. You will have to discuss your project across first with a French university and a French institution, and the institution will submit your application on your behalf as a nomination for the Eiffel doctorate program. So the timeline for the 2022 call is also present. The submission of online applications is going on, and the deadline is January 7th. For students who are interested and do meet the criteria for applying for the Eiffel doctorate application, please do read on the link that has been provided, and subsequently you can also apply. We also have a PhD fellowship called Raman Charpak in place as well, which of course our Illumina today, Ms. Ashwini Ravi, will also talk about as part of her experience. But to give you an understanding about it, the Raman Charpak fellowship has been in place for several years. The fellowship was launched with an aim to facilitate the exchange of doctoral students between France and India, so that we could broaden our perspectives in research in science, technology, and innovation. The program is a combination actually between different institutions across, and CIFRE, which is a very strong name, the French Center for Promotion of Advanced Research, The program aims at providing doctoral level skills to Indian and French students by providing them an opportunity to come either to India or France. Now, of lately, the program is also open to French master students who wish to spend some time in India and also have to go through a similar procedure, like Indian students who would like to spend a certain part of their PhD in France. The duration could be, of course, between 2 to 6 months, and it encompasses different fields of study that they can actually make use of. You could choose to study in chemical sciences, engineering sciences, life and medical studies, mathematical and computational sciences, and of course, earth sciences and environmental sciences. To understand more about Raman Charpak, the eligibility is quite straightforward. As mentioned, you must not, maximum age should be 30 years. You must have a master's degree from a recognized university. The applicants who are from India, the Indian students who would like to apply for this must have registered for a PhD in a recognized university in India or a research institution in India. It's a similar rule for French students who would like to apply as well. And the students, once when they're going around with the application to Raman Charpak, they should have pre-authorization or prior consent from their institution that they can apply for a foreign fellowship program. The fellowship program is quite interesting because it does give you exposure as a part of your ongoing research, and you can make the most of the funding and the stay that you do spend in France. The call for applications usually every year is around April, and the deadlines around May and June, and a student can start the fellowship from October onwards. I do suggest you to read more on the CIFRE website to understand more about the Raman Charpak PhD fellowship, and definitely if you have any questions, you can reach out to us here at Campus France as well. Of course, as a part of the promotional activities that Campus France does in India, we also have several research tools that are available. And there is a section for researchers who would like to go up and look up more information and read about how the research framework works in France. So you can always go to a website and look up the researchers tab, where you can read more about applying for a doctorate program, what happens after you do a doctorate program, how you can organize your stay, and how you can apply for grants and funding as a part of a doctorate program. It's very important to actually look at this perspective because it does help you understand more about how you look up these programs and how you can benefit from the different kind of research or possibilities that are there in France. To help you, as my colleague sort of had mentioned earlier in the presentation, that we also have a catalog available on the Campus France website, which you can actively use and look for more programs as well. I will just share my screen to show you how our catalog works, so you can actually read up more about it and look at the different opportunities and contact professors relevant to the programs that you would like to apply in France for. To help you understand more this in detail, there you go. So as you can see, the PhD in France catalog is available on the Campus France website. You can go in the researchers or the doctorate programs column. This website is a directory of all doctoral schools in France, and you can also look at different schools based on the regions that are there in France. Or if you would like to search in terms of domain, you can also do that possibly as well. For example, if a student is interested to pursue a doctorate program in chemistry, they can bifurcate themselves into which branch of chemistry they would be interested to pursue a doctorate program in. For example, if I would like to research more about material chemistry, if I click on it, it does give me all the possible choices to pursue a doctorate program in this domain. If I'm interested to pursue something, for example, at Université de Montpellier or Université Paul Sabatier, I can look at the program by clicking on it and read more about what this PhD program is about, what kind of an offer is it, what is the ongoing research that is going on as a part of this program, and also how would the application work out? Should I need to contact a certain professor, and should I need to write exactly? So the portal is quite intense that way, that it does give you a description of the program, the kind of offer that has been made, and also based on the laboratory, what kind of work they have done previously as well. So it also gives you an idea about when you can apply for the program. It gives you a deadline. There's also an option to apply for it online as well. And it does tell you what kind of a grant is possible as a part of the scholarship, if there is, and what kind of a level, linguistic level is required in order to pursue this PhD across. As earlier my colleague had mentioned that it is possible to pursue several PhDs in English in France, and there are several opportunities to do as well. So you can actually look through all of this to understand more about what kind of research work can be done and to understand how you can make use of this portal across. It doesn't end here. The portal is also an extensive guide to understanding and reaching out to professors in France. Sometimes you do need perspective to understand how to reach out to a researcher or a professor in France. And you can also use the Campus France catalog to understand more about how you can actually apply for a program like research in France, and what are the different pre-doctorate programs, how to enroll in a doctorate, how to finance your doctorate. So our portal does give you access to understanding these different perspectives as well. And then you can also make use of the different information that is present before you reach out to a professor across. To close this down, before we move ahead to the next sections that we have, just to give you a perspective, I'm just going to share my screen again. Yes, so we do have the Research in France booklet that is also there on the Campus France website, which you can also read more about in order to understand how research works in France. There are also different documents and access to different publications that are available on the Campus France website in order for you to look at the different good reasons to pursue a research program in France and what makes France as an ideal destination to pursue a PhD across. We have several flyers as well, which can also give you understanding of the different programs that we spoke to you about, MOPGA, Eiffel, and Raman Charpak. And also the portal is quite updated regularly as well. So you do find information that is quite up to date and can accommodate requests based on that. We also have degree sheets for you to understand how doctoral studies in France work out and what are the key figures if you wish to apply to some of the programs and what kind of criteria and eligibility does exist for applying for admission to a doctoral program in France. It doesn't end here. We do, for research in France, we have also created specific domain-specific sheets for you to understand how the domain works in France and what is the research landscape in terms of if you were to look at even musicological research or nanosciences, it could also be research in physics, chemistry, different domains of science as well. And also the research institutions and universities in France also have several sheets open. So you can also read up about a particular university, one of the public universities in France, or one of the research institutions in order to understand what kind of programs do they offer, what are the main programs of research that are ongoing at the institution at the present moment, and what are the strengths if you do apply at this place, what kind of takeaways and different things that you do get to receive once you do pursue something at one particular institution in France. There's also a cartography, a mapping of all institutions across in order to understand more about the collaborations that France has in place with different places across. You can, of course, go into more detail to read more about India as a country, like what kind of cartography is present. And this is quite what we wanted to be, to help you understand how to actually fund and find a PhD in France. We've reached a particular segment where we can hear more about from a very special guest that we have today, Ms. Ashwini, who would like to share her experience of pursuing a PhD program in France and also pursuing the Raman Charpak Fellowship that she had been a part of. So over to you, Ashwini. Could you tell us more about Ashwini? Like, what did you do exactly in France? What was your program about? And how was your experience?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rajat. Yes, I am glad to be part of this webinar today. Thanks for the Campus France for giving me this opportunity. I was Raman Charpak Fellow in the year 2019, and I applied for it in the year 2018, but due to some technical issues, we got our results in 2019, and we, as a batch, we got to visit during 2019. So my supervisor, Dr. Santosh MS, he already had an CIFRE project where he had a collaboration with University of Lyon and University of Grenoble in France, where he was working on development of biosensors for the detection of biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease. So through him, I got to know about this Raman Charpak Fellowship. And we started approaching professors in different universities of France. Initially, we approached University of Lyon, few professors in Lyon and Grenoble, but our area of research didn't match. That is the reason I approached CNRS Labs, IEMN in University of Lynn, and we approached Dr. Rabah and Professor Sabine. And Professor Rabah agreed to host me, and with mutual discussion, we came up with the proposal. And with meeting other criteria, we applied and CIFRE agreed for it, and I was Raman Charpak Fellow finally. And coming to my experience, that was my first experience as in abroad, and research exposure was great. And the research science environment there made an huge impact during my PhD. And so far, that is the reason I am able to complete my PhD very early also. I learned how to organize my research work, and also the collaborations helped me a lot. during the time when I was there, my supervisor here in India got an opportunity to visit my host university in France, that is University of Lille. And we have a running project with Professor Rabah as well as Sabine till today. And during lockdown also, we came up with publication and other research problems so that we can continue further working. So basically, it helps in collaboration. And also for the future work with respect to our research, we can carry that collaboration throughout our research career. And as Olivier mentioned earlier, we get to know we will have interactions with different people from different corners of the world. Usually, one of the different thing with what I observed in France was when I was there, a group of people from different part of the countries were present. For example, from China, Algeria, India, and US, UK, and we all used to work together, and there used to be exchange of research ideas and culture, everything. So that was a nice environment and nice exposure too. So hope this was the overall experience, and the moments was like cherishable forever. And it was a good opportunity for my science and research career. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini, for that wonderful testimonial. That's all the time we have today. Thank you once again to Olivier, Ashwini, and Rachit for taking the time to be with us today. But for our audience watching at home, the PhD tour has only just begun. Please tune in at 6 p.m. for a thematic presentation on health sciences research in France. Goodbye and good night.